Not sure which button it is, but
No, you're not.
I got it. Don't worry.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna got it. Yep.
One more moment. Okay, go ahead.
now what do I do?
You get to just chat with Charles.
Well, and let me say hello to everybody in the audience tonight. I'm Charles Shepard.
Okay.
I'm the director of the Fort Wayne Museum of Art, and I have the great pleasure. I have two great pleasures. I like being the director of the museum, but I also like the fact that a great friend of mine, a mutual friend of Clyde and mine's, Brenda Fishbaugh, called me up probably about 2 years ago and said, you have to look at Clyde Butcher's work because it's going to blow your mind. And I love and trust Brenda, so I went and looked. And indeed, within seconds, I knew I got to show this man's work. I love it. So Clyde, you and I are together tonight with an audience out there, and I welcome you.
Well, I met her last week.
Oh, you did? Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
She was such an advocate, and she cuffed me in the head and said, go look at his work. And I did. And then I learned, as all this has emerged, I've learned that you and I have more in common than I knew. We'll talk about that later. But right now, I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Clyde. Tell us everything you want to tell us.
Okay, well, I'm do a PowerPoint, give you a little history about my work and what I've been doing. Now I'm not sure what to do now.
I'll do it a second. That's Clyde's wife speaking.
Yeah, I want to say hey to Nikki too, who's also a photographer.
Is it okay? Okay, but you have to share the screen.
Yes, we have to share the screen. Let's get up the front page first. Okay.
Okay.
And behind me, as we start to share our screen, let me tell you, here's one of Clyde's wonderful panoramas behind me. And it's much more beautiful, I have to tell everybody in the audience, than my guest bedroom, which is where I'm broadcasting from tonight.
Okay.
Oh, here we are.
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
There we go. Okay. Well, I'm going to start out with a little history. I started actually getting interested when I was probably about 10. I started at about 8 years old, and 10, my folks took me out west to see the Grand Canyon and Bryce Canyon, and I really started getting. It was my first adventure out of Missouri. I was born in Kansas City. And you can see my dad's not too excited, but my folks were just great. And this is one of my first pictures I took. I can see the cars, the old-fashioned cars there in the foreground.
Wow.
That was in Colorado Springs. Then when I was in school in architecture, I started building architectural models to photograph for my presentations for my work. This was a 1/2-inch scale, and it's basically just like a stage set they do in Hollywood. And so this is the photograph. So what I was trying to do was to get the feeling of the buildings before they're built.
That's exciting.
Then when I got out of school, I started work. I got working with some architects to do photography for them. So I built this little camera. This camera actually is the size of 35mm piece of film. And you put one piece of film in the darkroom, then put it in the model and turn the lights on the shutter. And so this is a little bit more sophisticated models. Floor to ceiling, 6 inches. To give you an idea of the scale. That's Nikki me in the background there. It just doesn't look like it's a little teeny model. Then I saw Ansel Adams' work in 1961 when I was dating Nikki in Yosemite. So I started taking pictures while I was in school and when I was working architects. And then I started a business selling my photographs. Well, actually, I started black and white and went to color because in the 60s, late 60s, selling black and white photographs. I think Ansel Adams' Moonrise over her Moonrise over Hernandez, I think was $125, 16 by 20. And so we were selling these little pictures in gift shops. And then to expand, because back this was 72, 73, to have for people to buy a photograph to put it in their room, their house, if it was a clock, they had a reason to buy it. There was more than just a photograph. So it was like an encouragement to get the photographs. And we became the largest clock manufacturer in the United States. We were living in Newport Beach. I built this little sailboat. We were living in the harbor in Newport on this 20-foot sailboat, the four of us. I built it with an aft cabin for the kids. And then we sold the business and decided to come to Florida because of the sailing. And anyhow, oh well, TV shows we see about the Bahamas.
Sure,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
you were living on that boat, Clyde.
Yep. We lived on it for 2 years. No water, no running water, no electricity, no heater, no air conditioner. And that dinghy is 5'8". You should see all four of us in that dinghy.
I love it.
Yeah. But it was really brought the family close together.
Oh yeah, I would see that. That's really perfect.
Then when we got to Florida, I didn't see anything to photograph. It was just flat. There's no El Capitan. There's no Rocky Mountains. So I was in 1982. Salvador Dali opened his gallery, first museum gallery in the United States in St. Petersburg, and I saw his work there. And I said, I want to do some pretty far. I was into outer space, so doing some fun stuff. It was a good break from the work I was doing in California. The birth of the Earth.
So
Oh,
nice.
That was kind of a fun project. And
Yeah.
then we were doing art shows with some of that work and some of my California work. And we were going to an art show in Disney. And we met Tom Gaskin. He has a little place on Fish Eating Creek. And there were these Burmache signs. One of them said, if your husband won't stop, take your shoe off and hit him in the head. So I stopped. And Nikki likes these little places. I mean, she likes the funky stuff. And I was getting really bored. I mean, I was bored. And Tom says, well, there's a boardwalk in back. Now, being from California and knowing that there's gators in there and snakes in there, a boardwalk sounded pretty good. So I went out to this boardwalk and I was immersed. I was able to get into this strand and creek without getting into the water. And it just reminded me of the primitive of the redwood forest in California. And I instantly fell in love with the landscape of Florida. The same week, I was going to a photography shop in Fort Myers, and Oscar was there, and I was looking at these slides he was looking at, and I said, where is this? He said, Africa? And he said, no, it's down the street. So he took me, and this is one of the shots. Now, this is what people don't realize what Florida is. It's a different kind of swamp than up in New Jersey. Basically, Florida is basically a coral reef. So most of the base is rock. That's why these trees are so small.
They're striving for air and light, right?
Right. Those trees are 500 years old and they're only 20 feet high. Now, in 1986, our son was killed with a drunk driver. And we were going to an art show in, he was killed on our anniversary, June 15th. And it was also,
oh my gosh.
It's also Father's Day. We've had a hard time doing something on our anniversary.
I remember reading about that.
One of the years we went, Nikki rented a nice little place on the beach. And we woke up, it was red tide. There was 2 feet of dead fish on the beach.
Oh my gosh.
So we said, I think we'll have to try that again. So I was photographing the beaches of Florida, but I was thinking, I'm going to take this picture and make a black and white out of it. And I said, I think that's what I want to do. When we were at the Ann Arbor show in August, I was looking at my booth, all my color work. And I said to myself, when I get home, I'm taking all that color stuff to the dump. I had like probably $400,000 worth of stuff. And Nikki was doing hand painted. She would take a photograph, black and white, and she would hand paint it with oils. And she was doing well enough to make it, we could survive. So she said that I could go to black and white, because black and white still wasn't selling. I mean, I was doing really well in color, sales wise, and people doing black and white weren't selling anything. So, but I decided, I bought an 8x10, a big 8x10. I was using 5.7. I went to 8x10 for more detail. They didn't have digital back then. And I started photographing. And this is one of the first pictures I took. This is called Moonrise over the Big Cypress. And
Wow.
when I went to take the picture, I bought a new camera, but an old lens, and the shutter didn't work. And I made a few comments to nature. A few birds flew. And so with a large format camera, you can actually take the lens apart and push the shutter open, then put it back together. And you know how they used to do that with a lens cap? You take a lens cap, put it over there, and open the slide. So that was a 4-second exposure. And people ask me, well, how long exposure? Well, like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I was photographing things that I just liked. I didn't have any perception that any of this would sell, because I knew it wouldn't sell. So I just did what I wanted to do. But it did sell. Then, and this I think was later on in 2004. I did a show in the Ringling Museum, and on the left there was Ansel Adams show, and Aaron DeGroff was a curator. And 2 years later, he moved to Williamsburg, or William and Mary. He wanted to do something for the 400th anniversary of Jamestown. And so he wanted me to do something locally. And I said, since Jamestown was kind of like the start of America, why don't we do it America? I mean, because that's what Jamestown started, created was America.
Exactly.
So I had already taken this. This is some of my works. This was my work in the late 60s, early 70s. So this was part. I had to start from the project Hawaii. Now, this was I had been photographing in Florida black and white for 10 years, and I decided I wanted to go back to the redwood forest. That was my favorite spot for shooting in color in California. And this tree on the left there that's fallen, I was there at this spot in 1975. This is 1996. I was there when that tree fell.
Oh my gosh.
It was a 300-foot high tree.
Wow.
And I guarantee you it makes a noise.
Mm-hmm.
It shook the earth.
Oh,
So
I bet.
this is on the left is part of the roots of that tree. And I wanted to photograph what happened there after. When this tree falls down, it opens a big hole in the sky and creates a whole new system. So I wanted to show what happens after this. And you can see that things are starting to grow on the tree, and the tree is replenishing the earth. It's
going back to nature.
Correct. This was a 10-minute exposure. It took me, and Nikki, I don't know if you can barely see it. There's a couple of leaves over here. She was holding the tree back limb for me. for probably an hour and a half because they were 10-minute exposures, and it took 10 of them to get the shot. And you can see I'm standing on a log. It's like a 15-foot drop on the other side. So it was
Precarious.
I was getting pretty precarious. I was getting cramps, but I got the shot. Then the next year, the superintendent of Rocky Mountain National Park, because he knew me from the Everglades, wanted me to do a project on the Rocky Mountain National Park. So I went there in 2097. So all these are pieces that I were able to put together for American Beautiful book and show.
Gorgeous.
That was a homemade camera too. This was one of, I think it's backwards. It doesn't matter though. I sat here for about 2 hours waiting for the wind because the aspen trees, the leaves are just going all over the place. And it was about a minute and a half exposure. So I had to wait for the trees. And so probably 500 people passed me.
Wow.
While I'm doing this. And they would say, well, what are you photographing? Well, this scene. Well, is there no deer or no bear in it? No, it's just a beautiful scene.
Exactly.
So people are really weird. They go out to, I mean, I heard one couple said they made it, this is about half a mile to the waterfalls, and they made it there and back in 10 minutes. It took Nikki and I 2 days to get there and back because there's so many photographs to take on the way. So that's what I was waiting for. It was a beautiful little spot.
Well, and you got beautiful photographs, Clyde. You got gorgeous photographs.
Well, thank you. This is a project. I was at the Wilderness Society's headquarters in DC, and we were putting a presentation together to go to the museum. Like, sometimes my brain doesn't work.
Probably Smithsonian, I would think.
Yeah, Smithsonian.
Yep.
And while we're there, he said, we're trying to get the Escalante protected. So when you go out west, could you do some work for me? So I went out there and shot on Escalante, and then they took and presented these photographs to Clinton, and then Clinton went and made it a monument.
That's wonderful.
So I'm doing a lot of conservation work and didn't even know what I was doing.
Yeah, but you got it done, and you got beautiful photographs.
Yeah. Now I was doing a workshop on large format photography in Monterey, California. And this is on my 11 by 14 Deerdorf. So I had to take the pictures while I was out there, so I did. This is Weston's Beach. Edward Weston, Ansel Adams, and Wynn Bullock were my 3 photographers that really got me excited about the black and white. Now in Florida, we have a whole different atmosphere here. The clear waters, the skies, the clouds. It's just a beautiful place. I mean, it's hard to describe. This is some of my gear. Give you an idea of the cameras I have and use.
Oh my goodness, cameras and lenses.
Yep. Oh yeah. These aren't all of them. But the one on the very left is 12 by 20, and the one on the very right is 4 by 5. It's 4 by 5, 5.7, 8.10, 6.10, 11.14, 12 by 20, and a pinhole camera, and my Clyde wide. And these are wide angle lenses. I use mostly wide angle.
Well, and you get such good results with them.
Well, it gets you into it. People, it's not easy. I used the first retrofocus wide angle lens with my architectural work in school in 1962. And it was actually this lens was only invented in 61. Now, this is my first venture on this trip I took in 2006 for the show. We went three months Arcadia National Park, I don't know if you can see, but I'm on a cliff. And the rock I'm standing on, one of our employees went to Maine to see where I was, and she couldn't figure it out. And the ranger said, "Oh, that thing collapsed. It fell down." So I was saying that the whole thing that collapsed.
Now, Clyde, you do know this is where I grew up, right there.
Oh, it's a beautiful place.
Oh, yeah, that was my home.
Now, this is an area that I've always wanted to take a picture of. One of my favorite pieces of art, you might say, was the Hudson period paintings. And I always wanted to do something in Hudson Valley. And this is a tributary that goes into Hudson River. It's in the south. And the guy took me, "Do you want to show me his waterfalls?" So I did. Yeah, I saw it. And then on the way back, we saw this. And I said, now that, to me, gives a feeling of a Hudson period painting. And that was really exciting to get a picture from that area that gave me that feeling of the Hudson period.
Oh, I agree. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a neat shot. This is another area. It's called Delaware Gap. It's not in Delaware. It's in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And again, the 12 by 20 silly camera. That thing weighs 100 with the lens and everything is 125 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
Of course, now the place that we had to do was Yosemite, right? Because that's where I dated Nikki there in '61. And we've always gone back there. When I was shooting color, I never got a shot in Yosemite. We went back there several summers, never got anything that was worthwhile. This year we went back in mid-April. And in mid-April, the sun is in the right direction. You have to understand, you have to work with the light. And April is the time. And it snows. This is the typical view of the valley. And this is what everybody photographs. Nikki jumped off the wall and took this picture. She is a great photographer. But I said, well, I think there's a better shot. So down the street about 400 or 500 feet, there were these bushes hiding this shot. So I went downtown and bought a ladder so I could get up over the bushes. And I really like this much better than that other angle. The foreground, everything.
That's terrific.
Then I did, because I took from I only did this once, but I did this view, I don't know how many times. This is the view that everybody takes, which isn't a bad shot either.
That's a great shot.
Yeah. We have fun there. And this is a photograph. I was at Ansel's gallery, and the girl that runs it for 10 years, I showed her this picture in my book, and she says, "Where's that?" I said, "That's just up the street here." "I've never seen that." I said, "You probably go by it every day. People just don't see."
That's right. You have to get your eye out there for them.
Now, this is a shot that everybody takes. Half dome. But I was waiting for the right light. I mean, I was there for about 2.5, 3 hours waiting for the light. And there's no clouds, it's just the light. I wanted the right angle on the rock. And I had photographers that would come by and say hello. I think one guy came by 3 times. He came by and said hello. He went to photograph, came back. Said, "You're still here?" Yeah, he went to photograph some more. He came back. "Are you still here?"
And you were waiting for the right moment.
Yep. The light that was perfect light. I have used a red filter on this one.
It's gorgeous.
Then the Tetons, again, this is actually it's a pond. It's a rain pond. It's not a pond, it's not a lake. So people didn't know it. I found this thing, and this was actually on our anniversary, June 15th. And it was kind of neat to take a shot on our anniversary.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And here again, this 12 by 20, it's really overdoing it. I 8x10 is quite sufficient, but for some reason I had this thing about doing some. Most people use 12x20 for contact prints, but
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah, but I did for a environmental facility over in Homestead. I did a 23-foot print with that 12x20, and it was tack sharp, no hardly any grain. 23-inch,
Wow.
23-foot print.
Good for you. That's quite a task.
Oh, it was fun. Now, Yellowstone, yeah, I like the texture of this, but I wasn't that excited about Yellowstone. And of course, you have to do the ET shot. You got to do the shot in Dakota, South Dakota.
Breathtaking, actually.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It's a very religious. The Indians have it's a very religious spot for the Indians. Apparently, this is a core of a volcano. The rest of the mountain washed away from it.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
This is the Badlands. Now, Badlands, I had such a. I mean, I had every kind of weather you could think of. We had tornadoes. We had puffy clouds. We had cumulus clouds. This was the second morning. Now, when you're doing large format, you have to, at the end of the day, you have to take the film out of the holders. You got to clean the holders. You got to load them the next day. So we had been probably working for almost, this was a 3-month trip from 5:30 in the morning till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, every night.
Wow.
And I got up this morning and it was 5 o'clock, and I step out the cabin door. There was a little cabin we're staying right there, and it was black. So I went and laid back down for about 5 minutes, and I said, we if we don't do this, we probably will miss it. So this is just right across the street from the visitor center.
Okay. All right.
It's not, and this is, to me, is one black and white photograph. I mean, this is the essence of black and white photography. And it happened.
It's amazing.
It happened, and then it went away. I was there, and we did it.
So you caught it for a minute, and that was it.
Yep.
It's gorgeous.
So at the end of that, we spent 3 months. I shot 1,700 negatives. It took me 2 months to process them. It was $25,000 in film.
Wow.
So it was 6 months before I saw the first print. So it's really interesting, the difference between that and digital.
That is quite amazing.
Yeah, it was quite an effort. And there was no, at this particular time, there was no good digital. There was digital, but there wasn't any good. So the only way you could do this was large format film.
Well, yeah, and you did it by hand. You did it by wading in the water.
Yeah.
And
I get in the water a little bit here now.
you came up with photographs that were gorgeous on the one hand, and on the other hand, time consuming, because you did it old school.
Oh yeah.
And I got to tell you, they're the most beautiful photographs I've ever seen.
Well, thank you. Well, it's a lot of heart goes into this. Now this is full of gators.
Oh, I bet it is.
But when I'm here, when you do the picture, you feel like you're there. That's the whole difference of what I do. I want people to feel that they're going down that creek.
Well, and I think you convey that.
Yeah, I hope so. This was a fun trip. This was the Water Management District took us out. This was an area where the restoration of the Everglades was kind of a big controversy, and they wanted this is the Loxahatchee Wildlife Refuge, and you can't go there because it's a refuge for birds. But these guys could because they were part of the park. And well, I found this shot, and I said, there was two guys on the boat and these two girls. And now I had to take the picture from the boat. This is an 8x10, 1 second exposure on a boat. And I had the thing up about 7 feet. I had my tripod way up.
Wow.
And I said to the guys, I need you to jump out of the boat and take an oar on each side and hold it and stay the boat while I take this picture, so it won't move. I'm not going to get my boots wet. I looked around, both women were in the water.
That's funny. That's great.
That's the shot.
Oh, wonderful shot too.
Yeah, it's kind of like this is the wet part of the Everglades. This is what the wet part of the Everglades is all about. Also,
That's a beautiful shot.
I call this a Pac-Man shot. Pac-Man, the video game. Yeah.
And you got that shot.
Yep. Now this is what I normally don't do. This is spring. When the water's low, the normal water, you see the dark line, the line on the trees there?
Yeah, I do.
That's where the water is during the rainy season. But I wanted to get the whole thing just like it's without the water. And so this is when all the gators are mating and they're fighting over the water holes. The water moccasins are out, the rattlesnakes are out. This is spring. Everything is
Sprouting around, but you're out there taking pictures.
Yeah, so it's a little scary, but
I bet it is.
I wanted to do this because you hardly ever get to see this. Now, if you can see in the very background, there's a 10-foot gator laying back there.
Wow.
And he's protecting his holes.
Yep, I can understand that totally.
Now this
How brave of you.
Yeah, this is what one of the, how I do a lot of my work. It's a lot of neat water. If you don't have a boat in Florida, you can't see Florida. So this is on the Santa Fe River. So there was no place to get out of the boat other than a ladder. So I brought a ladder along.
Easy now. Clyde, no. Get back in the boat.
You got to make sure that ladder is safe, right?
Save the ladder.
Yep, secure.
Get the movie?
I don't know. I think it was mostly the bottom of the boat.
The boat could have turned over and she was just
Yeah,
still
if you jump out
away.
the whole, no, don't jump out.
This is so cold.
And you seem pretty brave about just jumping in the river.
I wanted to do it, Nikki wouldn't let me do it. Because you don't know, there might be a cypress knee hit when you go down there.
I'm zooming.
Let's see.
So Kevin, they had just lost their ladder. They lost it. So he came over to help me get out.
Got it? Got it? I'm trying to. Let's see if I can't square the boat up again.
So you have to be persistent. It was a little cool.
You're very brave to do this.
Well, that's where the picture is.
Water's not.
Not.
Different perspective from here. Yeah, it is. It's kind of cool, isn't it?
It's cool, about 70 degrees,
Cool.
but it was about 80 degrees, not 85 outdoors, so it was 70 in the water. So now what I do is just wander around looking for the angles.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I took the tripod with me, and then eventually I find a spot, then I'll pick up the camera and go to the spot I pick. You think it's a spot everywhere, but it's not that easy to make a composition and of this sort of thing. It's a lot of neat stuff, but you got to be really, really careful. Nikki's in the boat waiting. So now I found my spot. I'm heading for it.
Okay, you can see that.
And there's the spot.
Wow.
Nice photograph.
Very nice.
Now this is out west. This was we wanted to go out. I wanted to photograph some snow, so we went out in January. And this is the east side of the Sierras of Mount Whitney, and this will give you an idea of using the 8x10 camera. It's cold.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
So you can see the front of the lens is
right back.
raised up, so I get more of the mountain. So you got to go ahead and mount. You got to focus it. I mean, this is a time-consuming project. Then I decided which filter. I used a decided red filter. Sometimes I use an orange, but most of the time I use an orange. But this shot I wanted to do red. And you got to cock the shutter and open it up, and you got to put the film holder in. This is really a quick stuff, right? I think that was a 4-second exposure. I think I was shooting at f/45. Well, that was the first version. And then I redid it. This is reworked it. So this is the final print. So you think, whoops, I didn't do that. Oh well. So as an artist, you keep working on the image until you got it where you think it's right. And this is at 10,000 feet in January. Not a speck of snow. This is the pine, old pine trees that are like 6,000 years old. Pretty neat old trees. You can see there's not much grass. It's just all rock. It's kind of like the Everglades, really. In fact, it's very similar to the Everglades. Now, I put this shot in here to show you how I see. This is kind of like how I say, okay, that's the shot. And I put my camera where I'm standing. Everything I do is actually point and shoot. I don't use the camera for composition. I know where I want. I set the tripod down, focus it, and shoot. And it's just the way I do things. This is Glacier Lake, and this is the east side. And for some reason we camped on the west side. So to get to the morning shot, we had to leave the trailer at 2:30 in the morning. Drive around to get there by sunrise. And this is Antelope Canyon. This is supposed to be a photography group, right? And I'm shooting this 5x7 camera. These guys are shooting digital. I got one shot. I said, and I couldn't. I had to leave. I couldn't. I got this one shot. And I was sitting out by the truck waiting for the rest of the group to come back. An Indian came by and asked me what's happening. And he said, he saw my 5x7 camera and he said, "You're not having much fun, are you?" So he said, "My grandmother has a little spot down the road here. Come back the next morning and we'll take you down there." So I went the next morning and take it down. Now, Bandon, this is a place I was going. I went there, shot in 72 and shooting color. So I went back. This was actually after I did the book, and it's a beautiful beach. Now in 2013, I started playing with digital. So I felt that the first good digital camera was the Sony A7R. It's mirrorless, because that way you could put any lens. The only lens, the main lenses I use are tilt and shifts, and that gives me the same controls I did in the 8x10. So if you want more rise, you can rise it more, or because when you shoot with a camera, the camera should be level. And most people, they want to shoot up, they just lift the camera up. I'm in taught the old way. You have the camera level. If you want more sky, you raise the lens up. You don't raise the camera up. So I started shooting with this. This is a 17 millimeter. And then I had my stroke, and I didn't give up. Went out and got a walker, and started shooting again. You got to be persistent. I mean,
Good for your bravery.
well, we have to be there to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Out there in the rain, Clyde. Amazing.
So you sit there and wait. And eventually, they'll go away. And you get the picture.
Ah, beautiful.
And this is my ACA. This is our new backyard. This is my new walker. That other walker, I'd already rinsed the wheels. I took it in salt water a couple times. Walkers don't like salt water.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Well, I was photographing this tree this morning, and you couldn't even see any water. It was so dry, you couldn't even see a trickle. I love this tree.
Oh, it's a gorgeous tree. Without a
And
doubt.
boardwalks are good for walkers. You can get right along. Now, I think this was about 1992. We decided we wanted to have a gallery, and we were trying to find a place that we could have a gallery in our house that represented what we do. And this was actually the middle of the Everglades, the Big Cypress, exactly the exact center of the Everglades. And this is where we built our gallery and our house in the back there.
Oh, wonderful.
It's 50 miles from Publix in Miami and 50 miles from Publix in Naples.
So it's central.
It's centrally located. Now, these next two pictures were taken from the parking lot. This is from the parking lot.
Oh my goodness, gorgeous.
And people come and ask me, well, where do you go to take pictures? And I tell them the parking lot. They get all mad at me. And I go show them these pictures. And they say, oh, those are nice.
Look how beautiful it is, right?
Yep. And this was 2000, I think it was 2004. President Carter wanted to meet me. He had been given a Canon digital camera. He was taking pictures. He wanted to see me, and he took what they do as a family between Christmas and New Year's. They take the whole family on some sort of adventure, and they decided they wanted to come down to Florida. And so I'd show him all these pictures. And I was explaining to him I use 8x10, 6-minute exposures, and waiting for a week for a picture. And he says, "Isn't that difficult?" And I asked him, "Why did you run for president?"
Good question, right?
It's difficult. But he and his family had a ball. See, he's not scared. He's happy. She's happy. They're all having fun.
Oh, I think that's perfect, Clyde.
And the
That's
nice,
wonderful.
it was, because it's a whole different experience than people think, because like I say, it's mostly rock. So the water is basically perfectly clear. In the summer when it's raining good, you can see it's wet in the feet there.
Yep.
See, the Secret Service didn't want me to take him in the deep water. And I said to Carter, they don't want me to take you where I want to go. And he says, well, I'm the boss. Let's go where you want to go. So the Secret Service turned right. We went straight. And
Oh, that's great.
they panicked.
Oh, I'm sure, but that's great, Clyde. That's great.
Now, this is our backyard behind the gallery, behind the house. And I do just all kinds of pictures. This is a photographer's paradise right behind the gallery.
Oh, beautiful.
We have solar panels in the house. We have 3 Tesla batteries and 11,000 watts of solar. And we give people swamp walks most all year, particularly August through probably April. In the spring, we
Beautiful.
we try to keep people out of there because it's dangerous. A lot of people want to go anyhow.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And in 2000, my daughter wanted to join us. This is a photograph we did for behind them for the Fort Lauderdale Airport. It's 6 foot by 16 feet. We did
Perfect.
3 of these.
Marvelous.
We did 3 of these. And so we opened a gallery in Venice where she lives. Her husband is a 3rd generation of Venice, so they're not going to move. So we made a gallery there, and my darkroom is there. This is the darkroom is 2,200 square feet, and we have, I think, 8 by 10 and larger. Well, actually, it's 11 by 14 on the very left there. All the other ones are 10 by 10s, and then one of the very far right, that's an 8 by 10, which was built in 1910. But new
That's
lights.
amazing.
But they're new light sources, new lenses. They're not.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Now
So you
this.
get the big prints that you want.
Yeah. This gives you an idea what you got to do. This is one on the left is a straight print. One on the right is with the burning and dodging. And it takes a little.
It's amazing.
Because you have to visualize what you want. Yeah.
Well, and you visualize that, and I got to tell you, your vision is good.
Thank you. This is our big guy. This takes the 12 by 20. This will be 9 foot prints. There's a big rail here with a board on the back. This was a copy camera in a print shop. They were throwing away, and they called me, said, "You want a camera?" And I came over with my little Toyota. I said, "Yeah, but it's awful big." So I had to go rent a big truck.
Oh, like that. Yeah. Look at the size of that thing.
Now this is the trays in the darkroom. These trays, they're actually tray sinks, because each tray holds 10 gallons of chemistry. So
Wow.
so you can't take and pour the tray out by lifting it. So we have drains in the center of each tray. This is the wash one. This was 7 foot by 4 foot.
So impressive.
This is our sophisticated drying rack. Well, it is kind of sophisticated because these clamps are on a copper rod, because the print, when it gets wet, these are fiber prints, it expands 2 inches. So when it dries, it shrinks 2 inches. So these clamps have to move. And this is one of my favorite spots. This was the last time I was out photographing with Oscar, and it's a lot of memory to me. This is in September. And the next picture is one that I always like to end my shows with. I wouldn't mind taking that picture either, but people forget that we're a spaceship. We're not on solid ground. We're traveling through space. I don't know how fast we're going, 10,000 miles an hour or something silly. we're a spaceship. People have to start treating it like a closed circuit.
Yeah, like a
So,
thing.
yeah, there's only so much stuff. So, okay, so that's it. Now, should we go back so regular page, or we'll just?
Well, I think you've captured it really well.
You want to go some questions?
I wonder if anybody has any questions, because I know I do.
Okay.
And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Clyde, is that you and I both come from an art fair background. I used to run the Ann Arbor Art Fair.
Oh, that was the last show I did in color.
Oh, really?
Yep, that was right after that Ted got killed. I was there in Ann Arbor art show and sit and look at my booth, and I said, "This is really great stuff, but I don't like it." I didn't think it was explaining Florida. I thought the color was getting in the way of seeing Florida.
That makes good sense too. I got out of grad school. I was an art historian, and I'd never experienced an art fair. But the fact of the matter is, I got that job, and I fell in love with art fairs and all the artists in them. And the two artists groups that used to make the best money were photographers and jewelers.
Yeah. I did real well there. I think we sold maybe $12,000, $13,000, something like that.
See, that's a lot of money for a 4-day weekend.
Yeah. Okay, you have to realize people are doing black and white. We're doing $300 on a weekend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something you really want to jump into?
Well, and you know what I love too is that you chose that avenue to bring your work to the public as opposed to chasing galleries. And I think that's really a great choice on your part.
Yeah. The first year I got back into art shows, I think it was 1982. I did 52 shows in 1 year.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's a lot of shows.
They weren't very, it wasn't make much money. I think my little prints were selling for $5 and expensive ones were $60. I mean, if I did $300 a weekend, that was good, so.
Yep, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
And what it led you to, though, is it led you to bigger and bigger things and bigger groups attracted to your work. And then that led to fame.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you have to be persistent.
I got a backseat drive real quick. Clyde's wife. One reason we decided we were very, very involved in the environment in Florida. And one reason we decided the art shows would be a very good place for it was because nobody knew what Florida looked like.
Right.
And we were trying to save the environment here because the housing industry and the farming and ranching was sort of is and was at that time taking over Florida, and we were losing a lot of our environment. And so the only way to get people to see what this state looked like was to show them at their level. And so doing the art festivals put us in touch with people where we could have long talks like this with them about the environment and how important it is. So that was one of the reasons we did art festivals.
Photographers were photographing birds and gators.
Yeah.
They would come up to the booth and it's like I said, was this Africa? Is this South America? Where is this stuff? And I'd say, it's down the street. Oh, really?
It's right around you.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's really something that you should be praised and honored for. And on top of that, the art fair is a much better vehicle to get to people.
Okay, right. It's correct.
The gallery system is very flawed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've tried a couple of galleries and no. So both of our galleries, we bought with cash. We were able to pay with cash, so we don't have to pay any bills. And they're not in locations. The one in Venice is in an industrial complex. It's not in a tourist area. And the one in the Big Cypress is in the middle of nowhere.
No, I think you have you've pursued a path that is admirable, and it's led to great success on your part. I think the country understands. I know the museum people understand that you're the preeminent photographer of the 21st century. And I have to tell you, I mean that sincerely.
Well, you know, there's a lot of photographers out there, but don't quite get it.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, I totally agree.
But they are learning faster with digital. With
Well,
film, you had to have your own darkroom. You know, it was a lot of work time. I mean, so people are learning faster than they did with film. But they're still taking pictures of sunsets and sunrises.
but faster sometimes doesn't lead to deeper, and you know that, Clyde. Because
Oh, well, sure.
yeah, you've done it on your own time, your own scale. You've developed things. I've heard rumors that you developed things in your swimming pool.
Yep. Well, I'd find someplace to wash the print.
Yeah, you have gone through the whole gamut and come out as the winner. And it's one of the reasons I'm thrilled to have the show. And I said to you in a note, and I'm going to say this in writing soon for your book, but you understand the beautiful. You understand the beautiful in a way that a lot of artists in the 20th century have not. And I commend you for that.
Well, sometimes it's difficult because a lot of museums say, "Oh, this is just another Ansel Adams stuff," and it's not.
No, not at all.
No.
You're on the track of the right trail.
Well, thank you.
And sometimes what museums, kind of fail to get is they look for the weird, the strange, the not beautiful. I'm a guy that always goes for the beautiful. And I think your eye for beauty in America is the best I've ever seen, honestly. And I just want to say that.
Well, I was listening to a little thing on Edward Steichen.
Yeah.
And he had photographed World War I and World War II. And he did some museum shows with that. And he came to the conclusion that the only thing that makes a difference is positive. Negative doesn't do anything.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah. So I've always been, people want me to say, well, you could do this, show all the disaster. And I said, no. I want to show people what's good about life, not what's bad. Everybody can see that. Just look at the news.
Well, that's right. And you can't even trust that. You can't even trust that. People who've come to your show here, America the Beautiful, they leave happy. They leave uplifted. They leave with a new spirit. And that's what I'm looking for. I think that's what you're looking for too, really.
It's absolutely, I watch people go on just before they go into the show. They're kind of like, another show. They come out smiling.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That
is a big deal. And really turns me on.
Yeah. Well, and me too, Clyde. And okay. I love everything that you do. I love what you and Nikki do. I'm so happy that you were willing to talk to us tonight. Caitlin, I don't know if you wanted to do any other things tonight, but I want to thank everybody. Clyde, Nikki, the crew, you guys. I appreciate you being with us here tonight. We're going live on Facebook, I think, and that gets a ton of viewers.
Good. So, well, Facebook is can be good and bad. So you just try to put good stuff on. Okay, hon, what you got?
Oh, I was just thought it sounds like you're closing it up, and I just wanted to say goodbye if you're leaving.
Well, and Nikki, goodbye to you too. I'm gonna find a way to shoot down to see you guys.
Yes, do.
My stepdad's in Naples, so it gives me a good excuse. He's
Oh,
96 this year.
Oh, my. Wow.
So
it's not gonna happen. He's not gonna be around much longer.
I know. At 96, you gotta count your days, right?
Well, even I'm 79. I'm feeling, you know,
I get it.
You know, the great thing about getting older is you appreciate life all the more.
I think you're totally right. Well, thank you both.
Okay.
Caitlin, thank you for producing. Thank you, everybody, for helping. And good night.
Well, good night. Bye-bye. Have a Merry Christmas, everyone.